Well, welcome. My name is Michael Wright, and the name of the podcast is Where Do We Go From Here? Or, as I fondly refer to my clients, to move or not to move? That is the question. We're lucky enough to have Ryan Dale here from LaSalle Park Retirement Residence in Burlington, and he's going to help us ascertain whether retirement community living is right for us. I guess, Ryan, you're a young man. Maybe tell us how you got into the retirement home sector.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me today, Michael. It's great to be on the show. So for myself, getting into the retirement sector, I started working at LaSalle Park Retirement with Signature when I was right out of school in recreation and lifestyles. And then I went on a little Western journey in municipal recreation for a while. Seniors have always been something that's been dear to my heart and something I've always wanted to help seniors get in positions to succeed and be okay. Dealing with my own family as well. Came back to Signature this time, just about 6 or 7 months ago as the marketing manager, and super happy to be here.
That's great. Yeah, there's so much confusion. I've been in the real estate sector for the last 4 decades, and a lot of my time is spent dealing in the the retirement home sector. And there's the big confusion is always people confuse long-term care with retirement home living. People will come up to you and says, Mike, you deal with retirement residences. There's a 10-year waiting list, or there's 40,000 people on the waiting list, and I have to keep explaining the difference between long-term care and retirement communities. But maybe you can just give us a brief synopsis of what is the difference.
Yeah, so absolutely. So are they the same thing to start there? Absolutely not. Very, very different stages in our lives. Retirement, I often put with the word vibrant. So vibrant retirement living is stuff where you're in a community that's designed for people who want to live their independent lifestyle still, still going out, doing things, minimal support with meals, daily activities, kind of like living on a cruise ship in a way to put it.
I always like it when people use that analogy.
It's quite nice. It's your time to relax. It's your time to enjoy things, get to know people, and just enjoy your life.
So on the long-term care side, that is, that's all about care. That's all about being in a place where you have lots of medical supervision. I understand a large percentage of people have severe cognitive impairments. Yeah, so it's either cognitive or it's severe physical impairments. Do you have a lot of clients thinking that that this is a long-term care is the place for them, or is
Typically, that's kind of like again what my job is, and then why we're set up the way we are, the director of care as well at LaSalle. We always, when we meet with our clients, kind of go through, get to meet the resident, and give our recommendation. Typically, long-term care is going to be like a higher need of care. At our location, we just do independent and assisted living, so up to 90 minutes of care. So we do have supports in place. But the confusion with folks sometimes they think they need long-term care because that's the common term that's thrown around. However, that's really not what you require. You're still in a great position in your life, and you should be enjoying it in independent or assisted living in retirement.
And one of the things that is sad when they put in the newspapers, I think the last one I saw was there was 40,000 people on a waiting list for long-term care. But it really isn't a waiting list. It is a priority list because with the overcrowding, the only people that are getting into long-term care are people that are severely impaired and can't manage anywhere. And
Yeah, absolutely. And the wait list for long-term care extremely long. One thing you want to be doing in retirement, we do have wait lists as well, but they're not going to be as long as long-term care. Just there's a little bit more retirement homes, I believe, in the area.
well, before we get into the sort of the finer points, which may be a wait list on for different types of suites you have there, tell us about in every industry there's lingo. Is that I
Yeah.
was reading I think it was a Comfort Life publication, and they must have 15 little things. They had independent seniors living, independent living, assisted with supports, all these things. And if I was the average reader, I would get lost pretty quickly. So maybe you can take us through that continuum of what is independent, assisted, all that talk.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can speak to this from experience too. A few years ago, if you would have asked me some of these terms like ADLs, independent living, assisted living, long term, and you asked me to define those to you, I'd be just as lost as anyone else. So it's something that is why they have positions like myself in retirement homes. Is so when you meet with us, we can kind of go through and explain all this to you. So I'm happy to explain some of those right now.
Well, let's start with, obviously that you mentioned when you introduced that you were at LaSalle Park, is that you talked about independent living. What does that mean?
Yeah, so independent living is something that basically you're doing your own independent life still. So you don't need assistance with dressing, you don't need assistance with getting to and from activities. You're still probably driving, you're going out for coffee with your friends. You just have those supports in place in a community for you to utilize. So for you to relax, so your meals will be cooked for you in independent living, so you can just order off a wonderful menu like you're at a restaurant every day. You can go to a yoga class, a Tai Chi class. You can go to an exercise, a combo fit class. You can do all those things because they're really close to you, and proximity is great. And there's a convenience there, so that's more of what independent living is. There's no real support or care.
So I could leave LaSalle Park and I could go spend 2 weeks with my daughter. I could go, go to Florida. I'm totally independent. No one's checking me in and checking me out.
Absolutely, you can go to Hawaii for 6 months if that's really what you're into. You go right ahead. We're there for you when you need the support. It's great even for winter stays for folks who sometimes the winter and ice can be a little dicey for some seniors, and it's really good even to do like a winter stay and kind of get that feel of retirement living. I always say convenience is like the biggest thing of any customer client would want, and having the convenience of all those things in your location, you can't put a price on that.
No, for sure. So now I move in, and we'll get into a little more detail on that one. But I move in, and I'm fairly healthy. I maybe moved in because my wife had passed away, or I'm on my own, and I'm just having a little trouble managing. So I move in, I'm comfortable, but age catches up with all of us, and I need some help. Maybe I need some help getting to the dining area. Maybe it's right now I have a bad shoulder. I have a trouble putting my shirt on. So how would you help me as I slowly can't manage on my own as much?
Yeah, definitely. So I can speak to our location at LaSalle. So we have independent and assisted living. However, we're able to, because we have an assisted floor, we're able to offer care throughout the entire building. So for example, say you needed to get surgery for your shoulder. Okay, so you're gonna have some trouble, maybe getting dressed. You can always add that on for a little bit as some care, so you have those supports in-house. And then as you mentioned, maybe you're gonna age over time, and you want to make sure you're still at LaSalle, you can actually transition either and add a full care package up to 90 minutes, which are going to help you with all your ADLs, and I'll explain to you what that is in a
What's
moment.
What's an ADL?
So you can do that, or you can just transition right down to our third floor, which is fully assisted living, which is up to 90 minutes of care.
Okay, so in that 90, what would be in a, you called it a package? What would be in that 90-minute package? It's probably up to 90 minutes. It's not everyone gets 90 minutes.
Correct. That's correct. It's up to 90 minutes of care per day. And what that is for a resident, it could be divided up into medication administration. Perhaps you need help getting ported, so you need help getting down to a yoga class, or you need help getting down to the dining room and back to your suite. Perhaps it's help getting dressed. Maybe it's help getting with bathing. It can be all of those things that kind of make up into your 90 minutes of care.
Now it's talked about bathing. Now I know my in-laws, they're still at home, and they're getting government home care coming in, helping them out with a lot of these things. Can I get that still when I'm in a retirement residence?
You definitely can. So you sure can bring your community care into the retirement home. That can either be your supports if that's the care that you require, or that can complement on top of our supports that we'd be providing.
Oh, so I could have the care coming in. I was going to say from the Lynn, but they just changed their name again to
Healthcare.
Home health.
At home healthcare.
At home healthcare. Yes, for all those that are watching the video, the Ontario government has changed the name. About 3 times in the last 10 years, but we've got the new one now, and I could have the community PSW come in and maybe get me dressed in the morning, and then your care could take over getting me to their dining room and back and things like that.
That's correct. Yeah, so all of that would be after you would meet with someone like myself and kind of tour our building. If you decided that LaSalle, for example, was the residence for you, you would then meet with our director of care, who would then help divide
Would that be a health
a
be a
health
nurse?
assessment.
Would that
Yes.
be done by a nurse or
It would be
just
done by our director of care, which is a nurse, and
okay?
so she would do your assessment and make sure that you have all the care supports in need before your arrival at LaSalle.
Okay, that's great. So now you mentioned assisted living and a different floor.
ADLs. I
AD,
got to touch on ADLs, right?
okay, ADLs.
So, what is ADLs? That's
Wait, I know that one, but anyways, I'll let
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Assistance with daily living.
Absolutely, that's exactly what it is. So, what
I should have a gold star sometime.
you should absolutely. So, you're definitely doing your homework. I think that matters. So that could be help, getting dressed, bathing. It could be help with getting, to activities, as I mentioned, just kind of your daily living assistance.
Right. Okay, so that's so now I've moved into my retirement residence. Unfortunately, age is catching up with me, and I'm no more care. And maybe it's something cognitive. And I'm getting more and more forgetful, and I'm just not managing well on that independent side with the care. So what is my next step in my journey of?
Yeah, absolutely. So you came in as an independent resident. Over time, we age, and we want to promote that you can age in place at LaSalle. So we have our third floor, which is going to have more supports for you. So perhaps maybe you're not managing as well on an independent floor. At that time, we can always have an internal wait list as well for our third floor assisted living, which can actually transition you down to the third floor to get you some more supports and perhaps more like hands-on supports that are right there for you. And we also have even activities that are designed for our assisted living as well. So you'll have a lot more supports in place for you there.
Okay, would there be on that assisted living floor? There'd be more staff to help residents along, and obviously they need more care and need more assistance.
Definitely. So we also even have another dining room on our assisted living as well. There we can have our sports go through the entire building, but being able to be on the floor with the nurses and PSWs is a really great asset.
Oh no, for sure. Now can that if it's a physical limitation, they can travel throughout the retirement residence. It's they're not locked in there.
No, we don't. We do not lock in our building. We're assisted and independent, so there is no locked floor. So with our assisted living, again, that comes into portering. So for example, say you needed assistance you wanted to go to a yoga class down in our exercise room in the basement. You can definitely do that.
Do you take the yoga classes?
I have actually taken the yoga class. We're actually doing one tomorrow in the community as well, so we're looking forward to that too.
Nice.
Yoga is great, but you would actually, so every resident has a pendant on their wrist. So it looks very much like a watch. So it goes on their wrist, and they would push the button, hold it for 3 Mississippis is our trick, and then it actually rings a nursing station, which will come to the suite to see the resident to provide that care, because that's your communication. So for example, yoga class is at 6. I'm going to push my button at 5:45 so that the PSW can come and then take me
get
to
you
yoga.
down there.
Yeah.
So I guess so I'm a resident, and I'm it's my health. I'm not feeling well that day.
Right.
And if I was living in my home, I'd have to call my one of my kids, and I would have to get them to take me to the doctor and look after me, and maybe I have to get some medication now. In a retirement residence, do you have someone that can come and check on me if I'm not feeling well that day?
Absolutely. So we have our nursing department there as well. And one thing we're always making sure is we have our residents feeling unwell. We are checking in with them, of course, and recording anything that's necessary. This way as well, if you're not feeling well, you can also order trays to your room too. So if you were at home, you'd have to have, as you mentioned, a family member come and bring you all this stuff. We have the care right in-house there. We also have the dining department as well, and we can bring you your meals to your room if you're feeling unwell that day. We can also you can order a prescription through the pharmacy, which we have in our building downstairs.
Okay.
That does deliver right to your suite. So the convenience is great.
Now I understand that you do have a doctor that visits once a week or once every couple of weeks?
The doctors, I believe, are twice a week. So it's so twice a week they will visit and see our residents if they're a patient.
So if I'm there and I'm not feeling well and it's a couple of days, is that the doctor, I could get in to see a doctor, which, I mean, just thinking about it saves the family member going over to mom's house and, just checking on her a couple of days, then taking to the doctor, going to the pharmacy and coming home. It just alleviates stress on everybody.
Absolutely, it does absolutely, and we even have if there's a day where the doctors aren't there, we have a walk-in clinic downstairs as well.
Oh, really?
That it's public as well, but residents can go to that.
Now, we talked about the assisted living, talked about independent living. Let's talk about Signature. I mean,
Yeah.
for those people that have the opportunity to go down and visit Ryan, because the LaSalle Park is really an outstanding community. I mean, I walked in, I had that sense of community, and I think you used the word vibrant.
Yes.
And there's energy there. I'm fortunate enough, to travel to the west part of Toronto, is visiting the different retirement residences, and every retirement residence has a different feel, and I really feel that it goes with the staff, right? Is the first time I met you, it was,
Yeah.
you had the energy and enthusiasm, and I sense that in the retirement community, and I know Signature is not an old company, so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Signature Retirement Living. So we have about 10 properties across Canada, mostly in Ontario, 2 actually in Alberta. So basically, the Signature, again, energy is a great thing. So I want to say through our, I'm a big believer in culture. And I think that trickles down to your staff and what creates that environment you were mentioning. So I've had the pleasure and privilege of actually working in different places throughout my career so far, and in different provinces as well. I can honestly say I've never worked for a company that takes as much interest and care into their staff and their residents that I've ever seen a company do. It is why you walk into our buildings and everyone's happy, from the residents to the staff to the families, and we're all on the same page. It's really, really something that is rare, I want to say, and that's what helps us have that amazing energy that you're talking about.
Yeah, no, it is terrific, and one of the things that we talk about all the time is that activities of daily living. When I'm living on my own, I'm older, and no one else is around, and I have to cook for myself. I mean, many speakers that deal with seniors, they use the tea and toast analogy. Is I don't feel like doing anything, I'll have a cup of tea, and I'll have some toast. And my mom was big on. I remember she would make open-faced cheese sandwiches with processed cheese, but just there was no enthusiasm for eating. And when they come into a residence like theirs, you have an executive chef who is. I've got to tell this story. Is I went to visit Ryan at his open house at LaSalle Park, and he had his executive chef there, preparing snacks while people waited to go on tours. And I went in there, and I was the only one there. Ryan was on a tour, so I was stuck with the executive chef, and he kept feeding me and feeding me. And I ran home, and I says, "I'm moving in," because it was just outstanding food. So maybe tell us about the meals and that are prepared for the residents.
Yeah, so meals, I want to say the meals are probably something that separates us from anyone, and why that is because our staff are so great. Really what it comes down to, our chef's been at our location now for almost 11 years. We've been open 11 years. So to have that continuation, as well as our dining staff as well, it's just really, we've been able to perfect our craft. So we continue to work towards a better product every time. Our menu is, as you saw, quite amazing.
Oh,
It's
it is.
delicious. Lots of different options. We have new features every day, so the residents always have different choice. You can get a filet steak. You can get salmon. Our desserts. We have a New York style cheesecake for dessert. Absolutely to die for. So I'm in my position. I like to say I have to quality control check things quite often. So I do eat our food quite often. I've never been disappointed.
No, that would be tempting to work there, because I can vouch personally that the food is outstanding. Now, we're describing a vibrant atmosphere, as we have lots of activities, we have lots of socialization, we have lots of stuff going on. Why does so many people not take advantage of that, or not investigate what retirement community living is like?
Yeah, I think there's kind of a stigma out there with retirement living that it's some people sometimes think it's bad. It's a bad thing. It's not really. What it is, it's what you can make of it. So the thing is too. Often say like when you're working out, if you're not using your muscles, you lose them. Right? Your brain is a muscle. So being around people the same age as you in the same position as you in a community, you're gonna have those conversation pieces, that community feel that with people around you all the time. And I think that helps us live a more vibrant lifestyle. I often tell folks at LaSalle when I'm on tours, you can be as active as you'd like or sedentary. It's really up to you. The activities are there for you to take advantage of. Doesn't mean you need to be at every activity. Now, I definitely have some residents who are at every single activity, and we love them. That's great. But we have some that just show up to a couple a day because they're doing their own thing outside still. So it's really something I think everyone should at least inquire about taking advantage of. It is something that's going to enhance your quality of life, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, for sure. So maybe from your experiences, is talk about some of the residents that have come in there and the changes you've seen in them over the time that maybe they spend their first 3 months, 6 months, a year there. You must see some dramatic changes because obviously they're more socialization, better nutrition, more exercise.
Absolutely. So again, what I every person's a little different, of course. But you have all the resources at your fingertips when you're in a retirement residence like ours to be amazing, right? So again, it comes down to choice at the end of the day, and that's the best thing with retirement is you have choice, right? It's independent living for the most, right? And one thing is like we've had residents come in and they're eating healthier as you mentioned, and like obviously as we eat healthier, as well, like, and I do too. If I go and eat fast food for 7 days straight, I'm not going to feel so good. But if I'm starting to eat healthier, I'm going to feel better. Making sure I'm getting 3 balanced meals a day. I also have access to exercise classes. I have access to community around me. Um, when we have new residents move in, it's really interesting to see the time. So some people, because they're more social, might become part of the community like right away. Then we have others, it takes them a little bit of time because they're a little shy. But it is really great to see someone who you come in, you don't know anyone, right?
Yeah. Like the first day of school.
Like the first day of school. And I often think, I don't know, when out west, I went to Saskatchewan, I knew nobody. I went there, and I'm a very social person. That's why I'm in marketing and sales. But I was able to be part of a community, and there's not a more empowering feeling than becoming a part of a community. I love it. And I see it happen every day at LaSalle. One thing we're very proud of too is something we started as our resident ambassador committee. So transitioning folks from out from their time, they don't know anyone coming into new place. You mentioned like first day of school. I'm taking that college approach. So when you go to college for the first day, say I'm going to Sheridan College. We're in Oakville, right? So I'm going to Sheridan College. And it's the first day I'm going to, I'm on residence. There's always an orientation committee there, right? So that's what we do. We actually have residents who will spend time with our new residents for the first 2 weeks there, and touch base with them and make sure invite them to activities so that they're kind of becoming part of the community a little easier. And we've seen a lot of success with that.
Yeah, I can see it. It's kind of intimidating and scary to go in a new environment. Many of the clients, I deal with have been in the family home 20, 30, 40. I think the longest I've seen someone in a family home is 90 years. They were born there and
Yeah.
and they were moving out there. So it's one of the things that I run into all the time in a lot of my peer group is they have aging parents. And the question is they want to engage mom or dad in a conversation about housing, and mom and dad they shut it right down. They don't want to talk about it. They ignore it. Do you have any tips for people out there that maybe are trying to just start the conversation? How would you recommend someone does that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have the personal experience with this as well, but I mean, just kind of having the conversations, and they're tough conversations, they're hard, right? But having that conversation, I know in our company, and we have a lot of events so for example, something like the open house or something like we're having a market coming up. Going to those type of events because they're walking into a retirement, just seeing other people in retirement living and seeing what it's like without actually having it being all about them on a tour where they may have those defensive feelings. You're just going to a market or you're just going to open house to have lunch. Doing those type of things, kind of having that soft approach with family members is a really good way too. Another thing is having that conversation about the stress. I know you mentioned the stress, like it can be on families and the worry, right? We want to make sure our loved ones are taken care of. We want to make sure our loved ones are going to be okay. So we want to make sure that they're in a place to succeed, right? And that's why I think it's never too early to start looking for retirement.
No, I understand that. So it's, I try to think of, many of the things that people will say when they go into, I know one of the classic ones when, I take a client and I introduce him to someone myself, like yourself is, the client will pull me aside and say, look at all the old people here. How do you address that one?
Yeah, so we address it. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, what is the age of your residents here? I would say 99% of my tours ask that. Realistically, it's when you're ready. Is the real question, is the real answer. But we have residents who are like in their 70s. We have residents who are 100. Like it's again, everyone ages differently, right? So, and sometimes people are planning differently than others, right? So there really is no right age, I would say. It's when you're ready.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to look at it. And then again, there's someone that's in their early 80s that just wants that lifestyle you're talking about, or maybe there's someone in their 90s that as we talked, that activities of daily living are getting a little tougher there.
Mm-hmm.
So then I get my client and they come to visit you. What are some of the other fears that you have to overcome, or misinformation that you have to overcome on a daily basis when you're taking people on tours and talking about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people think that they can't leave for some reason. They think when retirement, they're like, I'm never going to be able to leave here. That's not true. You can come and go as you please. If you want to go to the mall, you go to the mall. It's independent living, right? If we have a lot of our residents have cars, vehicles, they go away for weekends with their families. They go up to the cottages. Like you can come and go as you please. It's just
I'm not locked up there. No,
you're not. It's not like that. That's the difference between I think like the long term care or in a memory care situation rather than like independent living, right? And I think that's kind of the fear we get often. The other fear we get too is the fear of like commitment sometimes. So it's like I'm scared that I'm gonna do all this and not get to try it first. I'm a big believer in trying things first. So one great thing and an option we have families we do have to overcome these fears sometimes is a trial stay. So come stay with us for 30 days. No strings. Just come in, enjoy.
So I just
bring your suitcases.
Just bring my suitcase. And,
bring your suitcase and your toothbrush and your dog if you want, because we are pet friendly. But bring it. We'll put the furniture in there for you. TV. Just come and see what retirement living's like. And if it's for you, stay. If it's not, that's okay.
Yeah, at least you understand what it's like there.
Exactly.
So it's again one of the big things that you will always get into is sticker shock. Many people bought their house, in the 70s and they paid $50,000 for it, and suddenly, their mortgage payment was $300 a month, and suddenly now with you going into a retirement residence and they range from $3,000 to is as luxurious as you want to get, $10,000, $15,000. So that's a big thing for someone to mentally overcome. How do you manage that question?
Yeah, so we really break it down into, for us, it's the quality, right? So the quality of, and you walk in, you've seen our residents, right? It's very, very nice, but it's also the quality in our care, the quality in our food, the quality in our activities, where I would say it's all very premium. And yes, there's going to be a little bit of a sticker shock for that, but I often tell people that's why you work hard your whole life, right? That's why when I look at myself, I go, this is something you want to work towards. I want to make sure I'm in a good spot when I need to retire, because I want to be in a place like I want to be at LaSalle. Like that's what I would want to be. And my grandmother's at one of our locations in Niagara Falls, at our Elgin Falls location, and they worked hard, right? And I tell her, she's sticker shock too, and I'm like, but like, look how nice this is, and she loves it. She loves every day of her life there. So sometimes it's worth the cost.
Oh, it's just again for that lifestyle. So it's, people that are coming in, and we talked about, you know, we get older and things happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of cognitive problems where a resident is just can no longer function in your retirement residence. So what are their options? Is there other places they can go? Or they all go to long-term care? Or
Yeah, so I can't really speak too much on it, but for example, if someone was to become, say, like a two person lift at our
that
location,
means that to get them up
two
is
two support workers to
right.
lift them, or if it was cognitive in the point where they were exit seeking again because we don't lock, so we can't restrain anyone in the room. That's not allowed. So if they were leaving and they were dangerous to themselves or other folks, we would have to look at either long-term care or memory care location.
Okay, so memory care was someone a resident that specialized in people
That's
with
correct.
with those
Yeah.
situations. No, it's just an exciting time for people if they embrace it. I guess is the big thing is they have to get the fear of it. So now I've decided I've come to see you. You've given me the tour. I'm really liking this independent lifestyle. Now I got a house,
Yes.
and I've been in my house for 40 years.
Yes.
And what do I have in my house? I got stuff. So when you walk in, when someone's, what I found is, why people don't make a move when they get older. It's denial. I don't have to make a move.
Mm-hmm.
It's lack of information, and that's why I do these podcasts so people
Yeah.
can get that information. But then it's the magnitude of the process. It's so overwhelming that I've seen it so many times. Is the client will go to a retirement residence or a new home subdivision, and they'll just get so excited, and on the way home they'll start driving, and they'll go, "Wow, should I sell first? Should I move in first? What do I do with my stuff?" And just get so overwhelmed,
Mm-hmm.
and they walk in the door, and their daughter phones and says, "How'd you like it?" And they go, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm staying put," because it's not because they don't love it. It's the fact that it's just overwhelmed. So, do you offer assistance or advice to people on how to get there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work with and have relationships with groups around us, realtors, downsizers that we know that we trust, and we always on a tour. If I get those questions from a client, we'll definitely be like, hey, we've worked with this person before. One I'll mention for downsizing, for example, Mary Dilly Downsizing Solutions we deal with quite often. We will recommend that. So she'll help the residents downsize their house to be able to fit into a place like LaSalle.
I'm sure you had many times where someone is moving in and suddenly there's 14 boxes outside the outside the door because they brought too much.
Exactly. So that kind of alleviates that stress of the move for some people, right? And downsizing their stuff. She also makes sure that your belongings go to somewhere in need. No one wants to throw out their stuff that they value. That's just it's tough. So they want to make sure it's going to someone maybe in need that could use it.
Yeah, one of the things I always recommend to my clients is to move into the retirement residence first and then worry about the marketing and the
Sure.
sale of the home
Yeah.
afterwards, because to deal with the stress of a move is
That's so
it's too overwhelming. There's Mrs. Smith and she has to step outside when there's a showing and it's winter time, or the daughter or son has to come over and take mom for a drive. So that's one of the things that we really stress is that if you like the residence, move into the residence.
Mm-hmm.
In 40 years in this business, I've never seen a house not sell. People say, "Well, what happens if it doesn't sell? Everything sells."
That's a lot of fear that we get a lot too.
Yeah,
So
with the
hear
changing
that.
market conditions, clients would ask me about that, but that's, I guess, why I have a job is that I have to make sure that if the goal is to move in the retirement residence is to facilitate that
Yep.
that and make sure it's as seamless as possible.
Absolutely. And one thing is making sure you have a plan, right? And I think not waiting too long in that sense too. We get into wait lists sometimes with our properties as well.
Now,
So
yeah, you mentioned wait list. Now, that would be for a certain type of unit, or a certain size of unit. Was that?
yeah, so wait lists, it comes down to your preferences, right? So if you're specific on I want this like a this facing room, I need this
What would be
exact room.
one of your more popular things that someone would go on a wait list for? Is
A
it
two-bedroom right now. We have no two bedrooms available.
Mhm.
I'd say our wait list for that's 1 to 2 years. For a one bed or two bedroom, one bedrooms and one plus den sometimes can be 3 to 8 months.
Mhm.
It's everything's timing, right?
Right.
So I always recommend putting yourself on a wait list. A lot of properties, I know ours, for example, it's a refundable deposit.
Right.
So what it is at the end of the day, if you like it, you like LaSalle, you like the suite, but you're not ready yet, put your name down and put your $500 deposit down because it's a security blanket for you. Because your circumstances might change, your situation might change, um, timing might change, and those things are unpredictable in life. And making sure that you're going to be at the top of the list when that time comes, and that you will have first right of refusal when that suite you want comes available. I think that's very, very important, because again, at the end of the day, if you don't decide to come to LaSalle or something, you get your money back.
Oh,
So it's really no harm.
Yeah, and it's getting what you want. It's
No.
many clients have it's just a preference. I mean, some retirement residents have different views. Maybe it's a view of a forest, or maybe it's it's a view of the lake, or whatever. Maybe some people don't want to be on a third floor; they want to be on a ground floor, things like that.
Yep.
So again, it's about choice.
Absolutely.
And I think that in talking to yourself and other professionals is getting out there and shopping around and making that plan. And I guess anyone who's seen me speak, is that's all I ever talk about, is making a housing plan. My housing transition and lifestyle consulting program is all about making that plan. Is if we want that 2-bedroom in LaSalle Park facing east, we've got a plan together. We know the unit we want. And when it becomes available, it's a seamless transition to what you want to do. On the flip side, how many times you get a call where something has happened and now it's turned from I'm not ready yet to I'm in a crisis and I have to do something?
A lot. A lot. It happens a lot, and that's why we always stress, and I always tell on tours, the wait list is a smart thing to do, because I have residents, that'll happen, they'll put their name on a wait list 2 years ago, and then they've gone, sold their house, now they're selling their house, they're packing their stuff up, and they got that room that they want, and they're coming in, and those moves and transitions are seamless. It almost seems, right? Because it's not rushed, right? And they're having that choice of what they want. We do, I get calls all the time where it's people in last minute scrambles, and unfortunately sometimes it's we can't accommodate, or they're not going to get the suite that they necessarily want.
Yeah, no, and that is sad, is when that crisis move, and I see it all the time, and
Yes.
and sometimes the fact is I had a client, and mom said I'm not ready yet. Was cleaning a basement, or I think basement. Anyways, fell down the stairs, fractured her tibia, and suddenly there was no choice anymore. Is that the extent of her injuries forced her to go to a long-term care, which wasn't on her radar. That wasn't what she
Right.
wanted. She was thinking of a retirement residence and that lifestyle. And
And
there's a big difference between the lifestyle at a long-term care and versus a retirement
Huge.
residence. One is
Huge
almost
difference.
a hospital setting versus a
at a condo living almost, or a cruise ship.
a cruise ship. So again, that by waiting, and the ability to choose is stolen away from you.
Yeah, and that's an unfortunate thing sometimes. And I think that's again where planning ahead's important. I also always stress, to to our clients and anyone I meet, go see places, go tour around, because I often take it back to when I'm getting married this year, and or next year, sorry, and wedding venue shopping. So same thing was to a lot of places offer the same products. That's the reality here. Okay, it's no secret. A lot of places offer the same products. They're gonna look aesthetically somewhat similar, based on the price point. What's different is the feeling inside each building and the people inside each building.
Right.
So go in and experience that. I think that's the biggest thing I can stress to people, because I picked my wedding venue based on the people inside, because I got a feeling that no other place matched. And I think that's what happened. What we try to do at LaSalle is we have great people, and we want people to meet those people, because it makes us great.
Now, do you talk to? I mean, there's obviously numerous retirement residences in Burlington. Do you talk to the other staffs at the different residences and communicate with them? And maybe someone's looking in a panic, and they don't have what you can offer, but someone else might have it. Would you do that referral type?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have good relationships with our other communities. At the end of the day, it we want to make sure that we're doing good in our community. We're good community orientated business, a good community business as well, and that we're a community first business. So, for example, say I can't offer the level of care that you have, I'm going to give you some recommendations. Or say we do an assessment with our nurse, and it's not gonna, we're not there. It's not too much care. She's not just gonna say, "Oh, bye." Like that's not how this works. We're again a community first business. We're gonna make sure that we're gonna give you some advice or some resources to find what you need, because at the end of the day, we truly care about the people. We want to see seniors succeed, and that's why we're all here.
Yes, many times, and I've talked to many directors of care, is, the kids will bring mom in and they will say, "Oh, mom has a little memory problem," but when they bring her in, it's a much more serious problem, and then obviously you can't handle there. And is that something you run into, where someone just is not going to fit into your residence due to their health concerns?
It definitely does. It happens. That's the reality. It doesn't happen often. I'd say no, not at all. Usually we're pretty transparent with what we offer when we're on tours, talking to people before we get to the assessment portion. So we typically don't have that happen.
No. But yeah, I'd say, the numbers are staggering. And what was reading the other day is that people over 65, 1 in 3 of people over 65 will have a fall within a year. So life can change so quickly, and being prepared
Yeah.
is just prudent.
One fall can change everything, right? As you mentioned with the person who fell up the stairs and the long-term care. It can change everything, right? Being in a retirement setting, like you don't have to worry about, there's elevator support, so you don't have the risk of stairs. You have support grab bars already installed in your suites to help prevent. There's preventative measures in place so that your risk of falling is actually lower. Whereas
It's grab bars. I've seen many clients that go to the house and they buy the suction cup with the grab bars.
I wouldn't do it.
And they say, "Oh, we got grab bars," and I says, that's got to support your weight, and
Yes.
so it's a dangerous situation.
It's a dangerous situation. There's a lot of misinformation out there as well. When you're coming to a retirement home like LaSalle, we are regulated through RHRA, which is Retirement Homes Association, and so we are inspected, and you can actually view RHRA inspections online to see if a retirement home's been violated, had any violations,
Okay.
or anything like that online, and that's a great resource for people to use too, because RHRA is a great source of information and also getting the facts. And again, we're regulated through them, so we make sure that we are not giving misinformation. It's all good information, and it's legit. Like, and that's something that we're very proud of as well.
Yeah, so the government, the regulation, guys are also under the Landlord-Tenant Act, right?
Correct.
I'm renting space from you, which is new to most people because they've always owned things.
Yep.
Am I signing a 1-year contract or a 2-year contract?
Thank you for touching on that. That's a great question, because that's something we get all the time too. Am I locked in for a year? Like, what if my situation changes, my health declines? What if unforeseen circumstances occur? No, you're not locked in for a year. It is a 30-day notice period. So if you decide to move out, you give your notice and you're charged for 30 days past that, and then it's okay after that.
But yeah, I guess that makes people it's a lot more comfortable. But it happens, and a rarity is that you can no longer accommodate somebody in your residence because of the level of care, is that you would have to give them 30 days notice.
Absolutely.
I've seen some, front page articles, XYZ retirement home kicking mom out, right? But it is for their benefit, because they can't handle that type of situation.
Yeah, and when we don't ever, I wouldn't use the term, we would never kick anyone out. We will always be very transparent and very informative with it, and we communicate with our families and our residents. So there's obviously going to be a time period and discussions that have happened prior to that. We're going to make sure a resident has, because a resident to us, when they live in our community, like, they're family to us too, and we want to make sure they're taken care of. So making all those steps are going to be taken ahead of time. We're not ever just going to be like, "You're out." We're always going to make sure there's supports in place for them to transition to, say, long-term care, hospice, memory care. We're going to make sure that we're assisting you along the way.
Yeah, and just keep reinforcing the fact that life can change so quickly.
So quick.
And not having the plans in place, and not And that communication, I just love it with, the communication with the family because, a lot of times family isn't close by. Family maybe
Right.
in Saskatchewan, maybe in
Yeah.
BC, maybe in the States. So do you regularly send out an email that's how mom is doing or?
So there are when families have the option to be even like on our lifestyles, which is our recreation newsletters, they can receive those and see like updates on like pictures of their family members. They can also be on our email communication list. So if there's any like updates or any like pressing situations or circumstances, we would communicate with the families if their power of attorney. All of those things are in place, so we do communicate with families regularly. The other asset of being in retirement is you have professionals around you, such as your nursing professionals. You have a very knowledgeable executive director who's been in the business for a long time. They know the senior housing industry, not just
Right.
their location. So they're huge sources of information and resources for you to ask questions to, so you can make sure your loved ones prepared.
Yeah, Chad, I guess that's the biggest thing is they want to know that mom's looked after. And I
Yeah.
know it's, many families, visit constantly, but if they're out of town, is that they really appreciate those updates.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned the worry-free is like you're not sitting there worrying
That's
about what's mom doing locked in her house and no one around and no socialization.
yes. Yes.
So in closing, we talked about planning ahead, touring other residents, understanding the market. Anything else you want to pass on to the viewers while you're?
Um, I think just kind of again, I want to just kind of touch base on like our location a
Okay.
little bit.
A shameless plug. I love shameless plugs.
Shameless plug, yeah. So, no, like our location, I speak for the company, like the company itself, like Signature, and then LaSalle. I can't speak more highly of the people, and I think that's what makes a business successful. The people are amazing. They're people that I've known for quite a few years now. I've never been around more caring people and selfless people, and I think that's what really makes our location great. And I encourage any families, if you just have questions about retirement living, even if it's not necessarily our location, you just want to come ask some questions, definitely feel free to do that. Like we're here as resources in your community as well.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I'm sure you can answer questions on all the different levels. So I'm sure we're going to post the contact information
Yeah.
for you and a little bit about your website. But I mean, definitely, I recommend people come and visit with Ryan and the staff there, and make sure you go for lunch because the food is amazing.
Yes, sure is. I thank you for having me on the show today.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.